This is Talk Business and Politics with Roby Brock.
Welcome to the program. Good Sunday morning to you. The big political news of the week, which certainly has major business ramifications, was Governor Asa Hutchinson's health care policy speech. KATV's lead Capitol reporter Janelle Lilley joins me for analysis. Janelle, it was a pretty big speech.
Yeah, it really was. On Thursday, the governor spoke to a packed house at UAMS to discuss his vision for health care reform, specifically the fate of the private option. Hutchinson asked legislators to renew private option funding through 2016, and he called on lawmakers to create a new task force to come up with some recommendations for longer-term Medicaid health care reforms. Huge speech out there. A lot of reaction from this, Roby.
Yeah, now, he called the private option politically toxic. Did his speech detoxify it, do you think?
I don't think so. I think the words private option are going to remain toxic. I think just the reaction from the crowd really solidified that. I don't think, however the program goes forward and however it's modified, that you're going to hear the words private option past that 2016 wind down date.
I continue to credit Andrew DeMillo from the Associated Press because he came up with this term, but I asked him what kind of reaction he was hearing from the audience that was there that day, and we were gauging audience reaction too, and he said it's kind of like a Rorschach test. Whatever you kind of interpreted it to hear, you heard what you wanted to hear. Yes, it's going to end. Yes, it's going to continue.
Sure. I think that was the point of this speech. You know, he wanted to make it where everyone got something out of it. And he even acknowledged that at the end of it with that joke that he made to the audience, saying he didn't hear a lot of applause throughout the speech, which probably means that everyone was a little bit happy and a little bit disappointed.
Yeah. What did you think of his delivery of the speech in terms of just the stage, the setting, and kind of how he presented everything?
It was very professorial. I felt like he was like a teacher lecturing from an outline. He did not have an advanced copy of the script because he didn't write one. He had it outlined, he had a plan, and he just spoke based on that outline. Same thing with the graphs that he used. It was very much like watching a professor in a classroom.
Yeah, a lot of legislators were there. What was your sense of legislative reaction? All over the map?
Well, actually, they were pretty in the middle. I didn't feel like they were all over the map. I mean, you certainly have the outliers. You have the folks who are always going to be against it, and you have the folks who are always going to be for it. And there's no pleasing everyone with it. But you also had some folks who were no votes. Jim Hendren is one of them. Cecile Bledsoe is another one. Folks on that side who had been staunchly opposed to the private option, opposed to even talking about continuing in any form the private option, who are saying, well, you know what? I heard what I needed to hear. There's a wind down date. I could see funding getting through to 2016. Yeah.
And the big question now will be, is there going to be 75 votes in the House and 23, I think they need in the Senate, with one missing right there. So.
Yeah, that is the question.
All right. What other questions remain do we need to be kind of paying attention to?
I feel like there's a few other questions. Who's going to be on this task force that he is instituting? And, you know, will Democrats let the Republicans kind of get in line first before they start throwing their support behind it? What do you think?
Well, I think, too, you know, what does the governor have to trade with? He's got to have a few things in that speech and from that speech that he can, you know, negotiate with. He's got to have something that he can bring to the table and say, I can do without that, or I want that in there. And I'll be curious to see if the composition of that right now it's a legislative committee.
It is a legislative committee
working on this, if that changes. So.
And you know, he really did so early on, 9 days into his time in office, make a big step. And I know folks were disappointed on both sides, but in some ways, but that's kind of a big reaction piece for 9 days in office only.
I agree. All right. Thanks, Janelle Lilley. Great to have you with us this morning.
My pleasure.
All right. Well, now we may answer some of those other questions with our next guest. Senate President Jonathan Dismang joins me to talk about the week in politics. And later, our political roundtable will drill into this debate. Plus, we'll look at some of the other hot topics at the legislature with lobbyist Bradley Phillips. I'm Roby Brock. This is Talk Business and Politics. We're back after the break.